to Taking the Myth, your topical, skeptical discussion show. I'm Stephen Knight, and joining me to work through the massive topics is Iram Ramzan. Iram, how are you?
I'm good, but I don't recognise my name being said in its original way. I was expecting, a suffix or something.
Yeah, you know what?
Have you run out?
I've run out, basically, is what it is. I might just recycle some of the old ones. I'll get thinking. Leave it with me. I'll get back to you on this.
Yes, great.
Happy New Year, anyway.
And to you too. How was your New Year's Eve?
I don't remember. So
So it was good.
Yeah, so I imagine it went quite well. No, it was lovely. Local pub, limited ticketed events, keep out the riffraff.
Obviously.
And
well, you still managed to slip through the net.
Yeah, I was the anomaly. Did you do anything nice?
It was my friend's birthday on New Year's Eve.
Selfish.
I know, how dare she. So we had a good time celebrating her birthday and welcoming in the new year.
Okay, so this is the first Taking the Myth of 2018. Plenty to cover. In a way, I'm quite pleased that the bearded lunatics took a little bit of time off over Christmas in Europe especially. So we don't have to open talking about, a number of people rammed by a car or somebody getting on a train with a backpack full of explosives.
It's always a good start. Always a good start to the new year.
So I'm in a slightly better mood than I would be usually. I do have a couple of notice board items that I think I could appeal to my audience to maybe get involved in a little bit. So the first one, there's a lady called Britt Hermes. I actually interviewed her yesterday for the podcast.
Is it Hermes or Hermes?
Yeah, Britt Hermes. I do not know. I think it's Hermes. She did not protest when I pronounced it.
Hermes sounds like herpes. That's not good.
This is not going the way I expected.
Yes, sir. We're not making fun of you, Miss
Hermes.
Hermes.
Like the god. It's a Greek god, isn't it, Hermes?
Yes.
Yes, there's the knowledge of our classic literature just pouring out there. So she's somebody who used to be a practitioner of naturopathy, which is kind of like a strange blend of actual medicine with some weird wishy-washy pseudoscience, a little bit close to homeopathy as we'd understand it. And she realised it was nonsense, came out the other side, and she actually spends her time speaking out against it now at conferences. She maintains a blog. So she's a sellout. She's a sellout, essentially. She's an apostate. She's a native informant of the naturopathy world. She's an absolutely lovely woman, very smart. I saw her give a talk at Manchester QEDCon a couple of years ago. Had a great reaction. And we need people like this to highlight the dangers of like quack medicine. So I interviewed her. The problem is, she's set her sights on somebody in America, a lady called Colleen Huber. She deals in the area of cancer, very important. Obviously, the stakes are high there when you're treating people with potentially terminal disease. And this woman, for all intents and purposes, this Colleen Huber, is a quack. And Britt has spent some time exposing the duplicitous practices of this woman on her blog, pointing out the dodgy methodology she uses to collect data, things like that. And this woman's threatened her with a lawsuit, so she's actually being sued for exposing this charlatan, essentially. So she set up a website, set up a legal fund to pay for her defence. It's doing really well. She needs something like 50,000 euros. She was at 40-something when we spoke. I'll include a link to that fund, that crowdsourced legal defence, in the show notes. So what I would suggest is, to my listeners, just give that a read through, see if that's something you feel you can get behind it, and chip in whatever you can, because I think when people whistleblow in important areas like this, it's kind of easy to rely on them to do the hard work, but sometimes they need a bit of extra support, especially when they're being threatened with, through the courts. And how do you feel about quack medicine? Have you ever been to a chiropractor? Maybe acupuncture?
I've done acupuncture at, it was Chinese acupuncture. And
Get out, no way.
I know, I don't know why I did it. And I took some Chinese herbs and medicine.
Mushrooms?
For some ailments that I had. I don't know if it actually made a difference. So, yeah, I'm not sold.
100% of Chinese studies in this area say that it is effective, strangely.
Well, basically, I went in for acupuncture, and you basically, you're taken to a room, and then, you just wait for someone to come, and, they do acupuncture.
Just come and stab you, essentially.
I'm just paying someone to stab me with needles. And so I went in and, I was told to take my shirt off. And then this bloke just walks in. I was like, whoa, what the hell? Like, I requested a lady, this is just weird.
But you know what? He probably didn't even work there. Come in, take your shirt off.
Yeah, now that you mention it.
Yeah, so Britt's doing great work, and I would just suggest to chip in and support when you can. I've got a conversation recorded with her. It might even come out before this episode, so if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. If it's not out yet, keep your eye out for it. One last thing as well in terms of rallying support. I don't know if you saw the petition that Humanist UK have put out for the attention of the Home Office about the deportation of an asylum seeker. Did you see that?
Yeah, Pakistani one, right?
Yeah, sure. So it's a gentleman called Hamza bin Waliat. Probably just butchered your name there, Hamza. I apologise. He's an ex-Muslim. He's an apostate, and he's also a member of Humanist UK. And he had his asylum rejected in the UK because he announced that he was a humanist when they asked him what his religion was. They subjected him to a load of questions about Plato and Socrates because, all humanists are versed in Greek mythology.
You mean you're not?
I know my Socrates and Plato, but I wouldn't expect everybody to. Do you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think you have to know these things to be a humanist or have a humanist worldview.
But I reckon there's probably more to this than is reported. I wonder whether there were other discrepancies in his asylum claim. I mean, I'm not suggesting there's anything dodgy going on. I'm just saying, there could be a number of reasons, but if that is genuinely why he had his asylum claim rejected, it just seems really, really bizarre, for them to reject his claim solely on the basis that he probably can't name a few philosophers. But, I think there might be more to this story than we think. But if he's a genuine case, then I really do hope it works out for him.
There may well be more to it. There often is, but Humanist UK is an organisation I tend to trust their diligence when they've said they've seen the summary of his interview.
Okay. Well, if they have, then I think they're a fairly reliable source. And if he's saying he's ex-Muslim, and I don't think any fake asylum seekers would do that, they wouldn't, like, if he's a Muslim or something, he wouldn't say he's an ex-Muslim to get asylum. Just saying that you're an ex-Muslim is, really big deal. So, well, I hope it does work out for him, because I think he can appeal, right?
There's a petition for the attention of the Home Office going around at the minute. I'll include a link to that in the show notes as well, or you can find that at humanism.org.uk instead. Big topic to start with that has affected you directly, and that's this whole hijab controversy in schools. Maybe you can just refresh our memory on what the hell's going on here.
Okay, so basically there's a school, St. Stephen's School. It's a primary school in East London. It's in the Newham area. It's the top primary school. It's the top state school as well, so it's massive. Quite an achievement considering, it's where most of the kids didn't speak English as their first language. And many are children of immigrants. They live in a very deprived area. And the school's done really well, and, good for them. So basically the head teacher told us at the Sunday Times that, they said that they consulted with parents. She'd consulted with her deputies and the governors and said, they had little girls in nursery and reception coming in wearing a hijab. So you're talking about 4 and 5-year-olds wearing a hijab to school. And, they decided not to allow it for under 8s for health and safety reasons and other reasons as well. They also decided to not allow fasting on school grounds because, again, of health and safety reasons. They said the children were passing out. The children, understandably, were not doing well at school when, they've gone to school, they've not had any breakfast, they can't have lunch, they can't have anything to eat until sunset. And obviously in the summer, sunset is until 9, 10 o'clock. So you have children who are going for nearly 18 hours a day without food and water. I think that's if they weren't Muslim children doing that, then I think social services would get involved and say
that's the thing,
there's an issue of neglect, but because it's religion, it's allowed. So they said to the parents, look, obviously if they want to fast when they're at home and on the weekends, fine, it's up to you what you do at home, but on school it's just not possible, and it's really against health and safety regulations as well. Now, obviously, everyone seemed to know about this, but then, it got into the Sunday Times and we reported it, and they were calling on the Department of Education to set these regulations and say, look, take it out of our hands, because then schools will become a target. And lo and behold, the school did become a target because everyone latched onto it. Months after this policy came into place about hijabs for under 8s, everyone started putting pressure on the school and telling them that, you need to reverse this ban and this whole ban on fasting. And the chair of governors also resigned a couple of days ago because of things he said on Facebook and in a leaked email. He talked about, apparently he talked about a quote-unquote mullah menace and the aggressive imams in the area. He talked about the process of Islamization, and he was against it because he wanted the children to do well. So because of that, he decided to just resign. And now everyone's calling for the head teacher to resign as well. And because of that story, obviously, lots of people, they've obviously took issue with it. And now, obviously, a lot of the people who campaigned, on the original letter to stop primary schools allowing hijabs, they've faced a lot of threats and abuse because somehow they had direct influence on this school, which they didn't. It's just turned into a very, very nasty affair.
So basically, they did make a decision on the hijabs. They said they were going to stop children of a certain age wearing them, didn't they? Or they was at least planning to, and they've completely reversed this decision now? Yeah,
they'd actually stopped young girls from wearing it. They said, if you're under 8, you shouldn't be wearing it. So they stopped that, and a lot of people seem to take issue with it because they said the school is infringing on the children's religious rights.
Exactly what you said before. This is the only thing that gets able to be passed through as normal because you slap the label of religion on it. People like Richard Dawkins have made great points before about saying that you shouldn't say Muslim child or Jewish child or Christian child. It should be child of Christian parents, Jewish parents, Muslim parents, etc. It's like sending somebody in as a Tory. Well, my child's a Tory and should be able to wear the Tory pin to college. My 7-year-old child should be able to wear propaganda for the Conservative Party in school because that's his deeply held convictions. People would be laughed out of the head teacher's office with that kind of nonsense. But you say that, my child adheres to some ancient religion, and suddenly you can cover their heads. You can dress them in things that's probably not productive to somebody of that age. Do you think this? I mean, we get into a situation where I think Britain's looking a bit like a soft case, but then I don't like the idea of somewhere like France, for instance, that seems quite harsh on these things. So is there a balance to be struck?
Like, for example, like you can't, what happens in your home is up to you.
Yes.
Obviously it's your rules, but as long as you're not actually abusing someone, then it's fine. If you want your child to wear a headscarf in the house, there's not really anything anyone else can do.
Yeah.
But once they're in school, do they have the right to enforce that ruling beyond their house? Because they're saying, oh, well, I want my child to wear this. Well, sorry, they're at school. They shouldn't really be wearing that because it's not part of the uniform. But then some schools have caved in over the years and said, yeah, we'll allow it, or we'll put it as part of our uniform, because they're already doing it anyway.
Moving on to something more cheery, Iram, Donald Trump.
Excellent.
I try not to get sucked into this because I think he I think he takes too much of people's time in general anyway, because there's this constant, incessant reporting on every single thing he does. Everything's saturated by it, and it's not just the news media, it's the entertainment media as well. I see things written about Donald Trump on toilet doors in Manchester, bars and places. It's everywhere. However, he's been catching my attention. I feel like I'm being sucked in now, and so we've not recorded this. When did we last record? December?
Yes,
I think it was
before Christmas.
But I keep a little note application on my phone, and I jot down things of interest. And so it starts off with, Trump's done this, I must mention that in the next podcast. And then it's out of date within a day because he says something else to eclipse it. And then it's out of date within another day because he's then said something else that eclipses it. So it's difficult to know where to start. We've had a few developments surrounding that man. I suppose the big one to talk about would be the release of that book, Fire and Fury. Did you manage to read that book?
I've not. I was given a copy, and I've still not managed to read it because it's just been serialized in the paper. So I thought I've got a good idea of what the book contains, and it's not really surprising, is it? It's kind of what you'd expect.
It's precisely what you'd expect. I've read it from cover to cover, and it's entertaining, and it's not, there's no reason to suggest that none of this could be true. It's just that a lot of it relies on unnamed sources. So it's kind of like, is it journalism to the extent where you can use it as a reference point? Is it kind of salacious tabloid? I mean, because it is written with a bias, it is written with an agenda, it is written...
Well, everything is written with an agenda anyway. But it's just another case of, look how weird or stupid Trump is. I mean, it's just, I think sometimes what passes off as journalism or a story these days is just reporting on what Trump's tweeted. I mean, think, well, are we just going to scroll through his Twitter account to see what other, bizarre thing he's going to say? I don't really care.
I've noticed there's a little bit of sort of a strange cult-like mentality of some of his followers, Trump's followers. So, for instance, he'll tweet out some criticism of the North Korean leader, then lo and behold, the next day, the North Korean leader will have done something positive. For instance, they reached out to South Korea about the Olympics, and people go, that's a direct consequence of Donald Trump's tweet, as if Donald Trump can cast magic spells by Twitter. All he has to do is attack something or reference something, and something positive happens as a result. And I think it's some strange causation fallacy to suggest Donald Trump is so smart that he knows exactly what he's doing, when really on the outset of it, he just looks like an incredibly impulsive, thin-skinned, almost moody teenager type personality.
He is. I think he's a narcissist. He's just used to getting his own way. He just doesn't come across as very diplomatic at all. But I think people knew this from the offset anyway. It's not like he suddenly switched from being this amazing diplomat to, a raving loon or something. It's just so easy to bash Trump because, well, he makes it easy. I don't know if you watched The Big Questions on Sunday morning. Yeah,
yes, I did.
They did talk about Trump, what he's achieved. I thought it's been a year. He's not going to have achieved that much. And anything, even if he's achieved anything good, it doesn't matter because we hate Trump and he's a twat with bad hair. But, did he manage to sort the situation out between North and South Korea? Or would that have just happened anyway?
I think that would have just happened anyway. I don't think insulting the leader of North Korea on Twitter is going to make him become all diplomatic somehow to South Korea. But it was interesting. You mentioned that. See, here's what happens is I'm not a Donald Trump fan. I cannot stand the man. But I do believe you have to be fair. You have to hate him for the right reasons. And the people on the left who spend all their time bashing him, so lazy. Case in point, this morning on The Big Question. So this is a UK topical, political, ethical discussion show hosted by the awesome Nikki Campbell. And do you see that woman? They threw to a question to that woman in the audience. She had a hijab on, and she just basically rattled off label Olympics. So it was like he's a misogynist, he's a racist, and this is another one that always comes from the left, normalizing hate. And she just threw out these easy labels that are quite huge. She offered nothing in way of argument or examples, and the entire audience are just clapping away as if she just produced this incredible takedown of Donald Trump. And I just think they make it too easy. I think they enjoy each other and the way they share a hatred of Donald Trump more than they do engaging with the actual issues. Because, this hasn't worked. This label thing hasn't worked. This is one of the reasons Donald Trump is in office in the first place. No one's going to listen to this. Who is going to be swayed by people just shouting misogynist and racist about Donald Trump?
I don't think the people who voted for him really care.
Exactly. They didn't pay attention to that, or they were not even influenced by that kind of thing in the election because they voted for him. No one's going to have their mind changed by leftists shouting racist and misogynist. They have to take control of the issues that Donald Trump is seemingly attracting support on. They need to get hold of those issues with two hands and make more sense on them rather than spending their time shouting racist and misogynist. I've had bets with people who they've bet me that Donald Trump would be impeached before Christmas, and I said that's not the bet. The bet is whether or not he's getting a second term.
Yeah, I think he probably will.
Did you see his comments on abortion?
Yes, I mean, this is someone who I think nearly 10 years ago said he was very pro-choice. He said, I don't like the idea of abortion, but I'm still pro-choice. And then he, came to change his mind later, didn't he? Because of some sort of experience a friend had had.
Great.
I just don't, even whether you like abortion or not.
I love it. I'm part of the fan club. I get the weekly magazine.
Yeah, so do I.
Abortion Weekly.
Yeah. I don't think anyone who even gets an abortion done likes the idea of getting an abortion. It's not something you wake up and think, do you know what? I think I'll get an abortion today because, I've got time to kill and a baby. So, or is it a baby? That's
the question. Did you hear Donald Trump? He actually misspoke during that case. He said something like, babies are allowed to be born from the mother's womb at round about the 9-month mark. This is wrong. This has to stop. And I think he meant to say babies are allowed to be aborted. So either wants to reinvent biology, or he misspoke and wants to limit the point at which somebody can have an abortion. But yeah, 9 months sounds a little bit crazy to me too. There is a debate there. It's interesting because
would it be an abortion though at 9 months? I mean,
would
you just be giving a birth?
Yeah, I don't.
Just be birth.
I'm not sure. I'm not. So this is as far as I'm concerned. I think the left can get a bit dogmatic on this topic as well. Liberals, me included, in the past. I've had my understanding of this expanded on. So I'm pro-choice. I don't think it's for the state to tell a woman she has to come to bring a baby to term if she does not want to. I don't know. I mean, I'm a huge admirer of the late Christopher Hitchens. He often gets used as an example by conservatives as someone who's pro-life, which isn't the case. He's pro-choice. He understood the right of the woman to choose, but he wasn't for abortion. He thought abortion should be avoided where possible, and he did believe that society should be engaged on the ethics of it. What constitutes a life and at what point. And he was of the view that where possible, abortion should be avoided. But he understood the right to have an abortion, and I feel the same. It's not like we're all like, yay, abortion, and like you say,
let's all do it.
Because I think sometimes it gets misrepresented as an extension of birth control, which I think is deeply unfair. But it's concerning now. I mean, I wonder if a lot of the people who made the argument that Donald Trump is actually sort of like a 21st century liberal New Yorker and all this nonsense about calling him right-wing and conservative, even though he's a Republican, is silly. I wonder if they'll start to acknowledge a little bit more now that he's not necessarily the liberal they thought he were, given...
Did anyone think he was liberal,
I heard this argument from a number of people saying that actually he's quite a liberal, down-to-earth, not down-to-earth, should I say, but he's kind of a liberal clued in...
He's so not down-to-earth.
Yeah, well, it depends which earth we're talking about.
That's true.
Somewhere not in our solar system, perhaps. But I heard that from a few people, and he's hostile towards the press. He's made noises about limiting religious freedom and the press, and he's talking about limiting abortion rights now. So
but he seems like someone, I think he might be maybe economically liberal, but then socially not so much, right?
Well, perhaps, but I mean, he did after the Orlando.
Unless he's trying to keep his core voters or something like that.
That's it. You've got to pander to the religious lobby in America, I think, in order to do well. You've got to keep them on side. But he is somebody who, at a Republican conference, came out in support of LGBT minorities after the Orlando shooting in Florida, because people will throw out the accusation of homophobe to Donald Trump. I think it's just a case of they've gone through the list of labels and that's the one's in reach.
Is there anything he hasn't been accused of?
Competency. So yeah, I don't like a lot of Trump bashing personally. I think it's too easy, like you say. But it can't be ignored, unfortunately. I've tried it. I've been in denial about it. I've tried to avoid it, but unfortunately he's dragging us in. So it's interesting to see where we'll be with him by the time this podcast is released.
A few people were saying that he'd had some success with in the Middle East, because he said he wanted to bomb the shit out of ISIS, and that's kind of what he's doing right now.
Well, there's some good argument if you compare his record versus Obama's record in that area.
But to be fair, like, Trump's only been in power for a year. Obama had 8 years. I think it's unfair to really compare, even though it's so tempting. But I think, it's been a year, and it's felt like a very, very long year. And it's going to be a very long bloody 4 years, because, every day is a new story with him. So I'd like to wait and see what happens at the end of the 4 years, really.
I miss Obama. I watched an interview with him.
He's quite cool.
He's just incredibly thoughtful. He's intelligent. You can tell that he has empathy.
I think, was it Imagine the World who was saying on this show that Obama was the right man for the wrong circumstances, or something like that, or the wrong man for the right circumstances. He was saying, he would have been good in different circumstances. He wasn't the right man at that particular time. But, when you look at Obama, he just, I don't know, he kind of seems very charismatic and presidential-like, even though, everyone had hopes for him when he became president. But, it was just his presidency was full of nothing but criticism. So you think, okay, now everyone's missing Obama because we have Trump. Well,
yeah, I mean, it's interesting, the American attitude towards this as well, because I assume that everyone loved Obama. And that's not the case.
Nope.
But I mean, some woman on Sky News, sort of like a Vox Pop interview. I can't remember what the segment was about, but she was in America, and she said, she loved Obama. If she was having a dinner party, she'd love to have him round because of his charisma. However, when it comes to making decisions for the country in the interest of the American people, she'd want someone like Donald Trump. She thinks he's a stronger leader for making decisions and standing up for the country. And I get the feeling that a lot of people feel that way in America, and that's one of the reasons that they voted him in. All these flaws, they knew them, but they knew essentially that he would stand for American interest first, and he would forcefully pursue them, and he has, so it seems. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, his approval ratings aren't great, but it'll be interesting to see if those people who were in his camp at the last election will turn out for him next time.
Well, we shall see in a few years just what his record is.
We need I've got another topic that I want to turn our attention to now, which is right up our street, really. We need a new segment on the show, something to do with virtue signalling weekly or something. And that's our good friend, the Daily Mail. It's been in the spotlight again, Iram.
Has it? I mean, I thought it was a very non-controversial kind of paper.
Yeah, so I think, the idea of virtue signalling in general, I think it may have even been invented with the Daily Mail in mind, or the Daily Mail is often used as an example of virtue signalling. So virtue signalling is, the idea that you basically voice your opposition to something, not necessarily because you want to make a detailed point or you're being incredibly sincere. It's more about letting other people know how wonderful you are. Hey, here's me taking a selfie feeding the homeless. That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And people often, especially my leftist friends, are not politically engaged very much, but they'll share a witty meme bashing the Daily Mail or something like that. So I can take it or leave it, that paper. The one thing to note about it is it's got an incredibly high readership, both in print and online.
So everyone's racist.
Yeah, everybody's racist. So it's not a case of it's some crackpot little publication that you can just ignore. And people hate it because it's pro-Brexit, it's anti-mass immigration, it spends a lot of time calling out problems within the Muslim community, problems of Islamic extremism, things like that. But it got banned from the shop on a Virgin train recently because not the public, but certain members of staff objected to it on a political level because of its attitudes towards immigrants, etc. And this train service complied and removed it from the shop for a while. What do you think about that? People removing highly sought, well-circulated newspapers from their shop? Because we already had this in terms of... It was a couple of... I think probably a year ago now. This school of journalism banned all copies of Daily Mail on campus. A school of journalism.
That is fucking ridiculous.
It's suicide, isn't it? How can you study journalism without having access to one of the most widely circulated publications in the UK? So what's your view of public services? Like, I don't mean like, I know the train isn't owned by the public, I know it's a private enterprise, but it's a public enterprise in the fact that it's used by the public day in, day out. How do you feel about train lines banning the newspaper on the say-so of some disgruntled employees?
How do I even respond to something like that? It's ridiculous. I read apparently that it was supposedly a commercial decision. They said, it wasn't selling, so they didn't stock it, and then they decided to, disguise it as some sort of, virtue signaling thing. It was a commercial decision, but then they dressed it up as though it was them making some sort of political statement. I just think it's none of their business. I mean, unless it's not like they were stocking, I don't know,
the Daily Stormer or something.
Yeah,
Third Reich Monthly.
It's a national newspaper, for heaven's sake. It's not up to them to decide what people can or can't read. I think somebody was saying, well, it's not quite censorship because you can still buy a copy and read it on the train. They're not stopping that. But effectively, say, for example, you're running late for the train, you'd have time to get a coffee or a paper, so you decide to buy, an overpriced sewage water that passes for coffee on a train. And then you get the paper as well, because that's when you have the time. And you can't buy the Daily Mail because it's not stocked because, you're racist if you buy it. It's absolutely nonsense. It's not up to them to decide what people can and can't read. It's I think it's one of the biggest selling newspapers as well. So for them to do that, it's just, a lot of people are probably going to lose a bit of money if people aren't buying the paper then, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. And so it's the employees that have complained, and it's not like the publication of this newspaper on the train affects them, but they're making a decision for the consumers based on their political beliefs, and it's not censorship, as you say, but it's in that ballpark in a sense. I mean, I don't think the people on the far left, they don't realise they've become the new conservatives. They've become incredibly conservative. They're the ones banning books. They're the ones banning speakers. They're the ones trying to ban newspapers now. And this banning of stuff that people didn't like, from films to books to newspapers, always used to be the realm of the far right. It always used to be the right-wing conservatives who wanted to shut down opposing liberal views. And now we see the left saying, actually, this guy... I mean, did you see that girl on the Big Questions the other week saying that she'd no-platform Nigel Farage from the university?
Yeah.
It's fucking lunacy.
University is supposed to be a place of learning. You don't want to hear someone speak, you have that choice not to listen to them. But don't make that decision on behalf of everyone. I can decide who I want to listen to. I can decide who I don't want to listen to. It is none of your business. Unless they're actually maybe inciting violence or something.
Yeah.
I don't think there should really be any limits. Let Nigel Farage speak. If you think he's an idiot and he doesn't make any sense, well, then prove it with your arguments. the fact that you can't do that means that you're not convinced by your own arguments.
Yeah, I agree. So there's been a turnaround on this. According to the BBC, Virgin Group boss Sir Richard Branson said he instructed the firm to restock the paper while a review takes place. He said that he had no idea this had been done. I think that's a good decision. I mean, if it was some really left field publication with no circulation whatsoever, you could understand it. But the idea, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it until it sinks in, it's such a snobby, elitist attitude to say, we're going to stop people reading this, the commoners, the proles, the idiots, the working class, because the working class can't think for themselves. They can't look through a story. They're going to see an anti-immigration piece and go out and smack the first Polish person they see. It's not how it works. You've got to be able to let people make up their own minds what they want to read. I don't read the Daily Mail. I don't find much value in it.
I glance through it occasionally because sometimes they do run good campaigns. You know, people always go on about how they hate the Daily Mail or the Sun, and yet for some reason they're the ones that get all these exclusive stories because people want to talk to them. I think they probably pay for stories as well, so they're happy people to take money from these newspapers so that they can have their story in. But the rest of the time, you know, it's like, oh no, the Sun, the Mail, it's full of hate. Well, fine, you don't have to read it, but I'm sorry, but if you want to broaden your horizons, try to read as much as possible. And then, you know, if you see something you don't like in the Mail, then you can at least challenge it. But to suggest that the whole paper is full of crap is nonsense. You have really good reporters in lots of different papers. You know, you'll find good stories in every single paper. You know, you might not like the paper as a whole, but, you know, it's just really patronizing. And also, why is it that anything right wing is seen as bad, but anything left, aka the Guardian or something,
fucking Guardian.
Yeah, why is that automatically good? Left equals good, right equals bad. Why?
Okay, I really want to talk about an incredibly racist far-right organisation that's been involved in some absolutely disgusting behaviour this last month, and that's the clothes retailer H&M. I'll just read you the headline. Sorry, I'll just read you a little bit from The Guardian about this story. H&M has apologised for an advert showing a black child in a green hoodie bearing the words, "Coolest monkey in the jungle." I mean, to be fair, the kid looks fairly cool in that hoodie.
He looks quite cute. It's a good colour on him.
Yeah, you can understand why he's a model. Now, everybody not everybody, but just dickheads on the far left again, Iram, just not content with going about their life without creating aggro, decided that this was the most racist thing to have occurred ever, and inferred from the word monkey on there that this was some sort of racist slur. Not only that it was intentional, that someone at H&M thought, we'll dress a black kid in racist material, mocking his entire race as part of a promotional campaign. And this was huge. It made a lot of media outlets. There was petitions, apologies had to be made, products had to be pulled. People have been trying to sell these hoodies on eBay now because they've become somewhat limited items apparently. And eBay have even come out and said, we're not going to allow that to happen. What's your take on all this?
I think you're racist.
Yeah.
All racist. This is ridiculous. I think to be fair, I can see how it came across having this black kid in a hoodie.
It's tone deaf, isn't it?
It is. You know, I think if they had a white kid in the hoodie, then that wouldn't have been an issue. So it was a bit of a PR disaster for them.
just clueless marketing. But here's the thing, though. Why do people get from, well, these guys are idiots and have made a mistake, to they are maliciously racist? Because the online mob whipped this up into such a frenzy again. H&M stores in places like South Africa were being trashed.
That's what happens now. Like, everything that happens, you can expect a social media outrage, and you can expect a mob, and then for a company to backtrack over what's over its decision. That's just the new norm now, unfortunately, and it just shows that we're living in such crazy times that people get outraged very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, a friend of mine made a good point. I was talking to them, and they said that, well, it's a shame really that they've pulled this, because now it's just one less black kid represented in this clothing firm. People always bang on about diversity, 2 whites, hashtag, etc. And now we've got a black kid modelling clothing, and he's had to have his campaign pulled because people have gone insane over what's basically an oversight in terms of what a term may or may not mean. I mean, there's no way on earth I would see a black kid with coolest monkey on his top and think, oh, racist. I just think the reaction's not proportional, and I do think that companies and news outlets particularly need to stop taking outrage on social media as a representation of the truth or what's actually going on.
Yeah, I think I was reading as well the other day. Did his mum have to go in? His mum and this child, did they have to move or go into hiding because of the threats that they faced?
Yeah.
Because she came out to defend it and said it's not racist. If it was racist, I wouldn't have put my child forward for that job. Oh my God! How dare you say you're not feeling racialized and victimized? We're going to hunt you down now.
Yeah. It's honestly, they're talking about it like they put him in a hoodie that says cotton picker or something on it. Do you know what I mean? Or worse. House Negro. That's how they're talking about it. And it's just insane that it just shows you, in a way, how much things have progressed on racism in this country, where the biggest racist scandal is a kid in a really ill thought out sloganed hoodie.
If you think something's ill thought out or a bit of a PR disaster, then fine, but the reaction to it, oh my God, it's like the whole Toby Young saga, him chairing the regulator for universities, and almost straight away there was a backlash because of some comments he made on Twitter, because he's right wing, he's not the best person to do it, and all his past tweets and articles all came up, and then eventually he just stepped down and said, I won't do this. I personally, I don't think Toby Young was the right person for the job, only because he's quite outspoken, and because he's someone who made a career out of just being very in your face and outspoken.
He's a provocateur, isn't he?
A provocateur. It just didn't seem like he should be someone doing this type of job, because maybe he shouldn't have been appointed in the first place, but then the reaction to it was just ridiculous. If it was someone who's far left, who was or really left wing, who'd been appointed, that would have been celebrated. But because he's right of centre, he criticises a lot of things, and he's apparently a eugenicist as well.
I like Toby Young. I read his column in The Spectator, and not because I nod along to everything and agree with it, because there's things in there I don't agree with, and I like to read things that I don't agree with. Sometimes I can take things away from it, or I can be persuaded in my outlook. But he might actually come on this very podcast in the future.
Because you're a racist and eugenicist.
Because I like to reach out to my fellow right-wing eugenicist. And you like
boobs as well.
Boobs. Oh yeah, I did. So yeah, so this is another thing as well. So he
got boobs.
Yeah. So this is the new segment for the podcast, just boob watch. No. So I think people need to understand as well that if this is the standard that we're going to have now for people being appointed in a position where you have to have the purest social media history available to humanity, then I think they should stop throwing stones in glass houses, because nobody's perfect. We all say things in our immaturity or in the heat of the moment, or we change and grow as people. Like, I don't know if you use Facebook very often, but I think it was one of the first social media platforms I joined, and it does this thing where it's like you have so many memories to look back on today, and you can click back and look at when you were slimmer and younger. And
I was never slim and young. Yeah.
You look about 17, Iram. You're okay. No worries. But so something will come up from like 2009 of an opinion that I've shared on something, and I think, oh, that's embarrassing, because I've progressed. I've moved on. That's surely the point. I'm not the same person I was when I was in my mid-20s, etc. Granted, Toby Young's a little bit of a different circumstance because he was approaching middle age when he tweeted out a lot of these things. But I don't think bad tweets should not, instantly disqualify you from a position. And let's be honest, the man's got experience in this field. That's his career. That's what he does. He works in free schools, tirelessly setting them up, whether or not you agree with those or not. But he knows the sector. The position that he was appointed, as far as I'm aware, they were talking about it like they just made him Secretary of Education or something. Apparently, it was some like left field position that he was being afforded. But as you say, if he was left wing, no one would have mentioned it. But because he's on the right, he must be crucified for something he sent about tits a couple of years ago or whatever.
It's the same with Rod Liddell. I mean, have you read his columns? I think they're absolutely hilarious.
Yes.
And yet, I know there's one particular person on my Twitter, I won't name, but he just hates Rod Liddell because he thinks he's really racist scumbag. And I think you have to read Rod Liddell's pieces, tongue-in-cheek. You cannot take it seriously. I read his stuff and I just laugh. And I think, oh shit, am I racist for laughing? Am I a woman hater for laughing? I think, people read things too literally now. People take offense at almost every opportunity. We're just heading towards a very bland world where mullahs run things in East London and no one can take a joke anymore.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs. I mean, I shared an article of Rod Liddell's a couple of weeks ago, and he introduced me to the pejorative word wank puffing. So I've been waiting to find the appropriate opportunity.
You say wank puffing.
Wank puffing as an insult.
I know, but can you use it in a sentence? I mean, how would you describe a wank puffing?
Stop being a wank puffing.
Oh, okay.
It just doesn't matter. It's just an insult.
Is it like Donald Trump's hashtag kerfuffy or something?
I think he was actually in this Rod Liddell article. I think he was actually referring to people in the online outrage mob.
I just remember when social media used to be really fun, and now it's like it's not fun anymore at all. I rarely go on Twitter these days because it's just full of wank puffins.
Hey!
Got it in. It's just full of people who are outraged and just don't like something that I've written and just ready to call me an Islamophobe. And I just think, what the hell is the point anymore? Again, like I said with Trump, we'll just have to see what happens with social media in due course, because it's just, I don't know, it's not a place of free speech anymore. It's just becoming highly censored, I think. It's just not what it used to be.
You know what's interesting though, and this is something I will say in its favour, Donald Trump has done something that's really rubbed the media up the wrong way, and they don't like it, and there's this loss of power, because the media was often the conduit between the White House and the general public. So they got the stories, they got the statements, they got the exclusives, and they then shared that through whatever filter of their own political biases to the general public. And so essentially they control the narrative to an extent.
I guess, yeah, when you put something on Twitter, you're owning that narrative.
Yep, Donald Trump saying, no thank you, I'll put out my own words in my own way, and there is absolutely fuck all you can do about that. So for better, for worse, he's bypassing that system, and these people are panicking. They don't know what to do about this idea of being sidelined by the White House, and it is very interesting, and I think that only emboldens his followers as well. His followers think, yes, fuck the media, fake news, that's become one of the most used terms of the last 18 months, and they see that as well. They go straight to the source. They know they can get pure, unfiltered Trump, direct...
Pure, unfiltered kerfuffle.
Yeah, exactly. Direct to their smartphone and or other device. So, yeah, he's tapped into something. That's what he's done. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. I think it's time for the Aslan Awards. And I want to put forward Cathy Newman, Channel 4 news presenter, for this week's award. Did you see her car crash interview with Canadian Professor Jordan Peterson?
Yes, I did watch it. It was, oh my God. Well, in the first few minutes, it was, I looked at the interview, I thought, 30 minutes, it's just going to be so long and dry. But dry, it was not.
Yes.
And I was just watching it, And I thought, okay, this is a very bizarre interview. So Jordan Peterson, who I've never come across before, by the way, this was my first encounter. And he was being interviewed because of, I think he's written a book, hasn't he?
Yes, 12 Rules for Life, an Antidote to Chaos, it's called.
Excellent. I should buy that. And she was interviewing him, and after he spoke, she would say, so basically, what you're saying is X, Y, Z. And he said, no, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, and then he'd finish, so what you're saying is blah, 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 blah. No, I'm not saying that at all. I didn't say that. Okay, and this and that, so forth and so forth, and that was basically for the entire 30 minutes. That's how the interview carried on. I mean, he was making very sensible points, I thought, and I think she came across it with a bit of an agenda. I think from what I've read about Jordan Peterson, some people were saying that he has some rather dubious views about religion, God, and with the right interviewer, those views would have actually come out, and we could have seen or heard those views. But I don't think Cathy Newman kind of knew what she was doing. I think because she's presenting a news program, she wants, that there's this idea that, you have to try and get a top line there. You have to get some sort of outrageous quote to make the news bulletins or something, because, you can't really do that if someone's speaking sensibly and not coming out with something very provocative. And I think he did a podcast with Sam Harris, and some people are saying he didn't come across as well in that podcast because obviously Sam Harris knows what he's talking about. He knows where to probe him and how to, let him talk and reveal maybe some of the contradictions in what he believes and what he says, whereas Cathy Newman didn't quite get it. So I could see there were probably some issues in the book, or maybe his views, and that's fine. You're not going to agree with everyone, but it just didn't come across very well. It made him look really good, and it just made her look really bad, to the point where, there's this one point where she's just completely stumped, and he says, "Ha, gotcha."
Yeah,
you don't want that to happen in an interview.
Oh no, that's the worst thing that could happen. But I mean, there's a few things going on here. So the Aslans is for apologies, spouting lies and nonsense. Now, given another week, Jordan Peterson very well could have found himself as a contender for the award too, because like you say, he has some very wishy-washy, head-scratching opinions on religion. I'm working my way through his book. I'm almost finished, actually. He actually reached out to me and sent me a copy of it a couple of weeks back. It was quite unsurprised. I've not really had any dealings with him. I've dipped in and out of some of his work, but he just sent me a message just saying he'd like to send me a copy of his book, and lo and behold, a couple of weeks later it arrived in the mail. So I'm working through it. In terms of the Cathy Newman interview, I think what happened, I think she was let down by her researchers a little bit, because it was like she was handed a brief that said, okay, this is the professor from Canada who's a transphobe, he's a misogynist, he doesn't think women should be paid as much as men, blah blah blah. She's like, what they've done is they've got the criticism of Jordan Peterson online and used that as a template for Cathy to go at him with, because she almost seemed surprised. He was saying about how women could achieve the same pay as men, and she was almost surprised. Like she was like, "And you'd be happy with this, would you?" As if he wouldn't. And he was like,
How dare you?
"Well, yes, of course, it wouldn't bother me." So, but
I'm sorry, but isn't this what feminists are always arguing, that women are far more agreeable because of, quote unquote, the patriarchy, and because of that we're always getting sidelined or we're getting bad deals, that we need to be more assertive? And here's this guy saying women on the whole, and he's like, because she's like, oh, but isn't that a generalization? He's like, well, yeah, obviously that's why he said on the whole.
Yeah.
So on the whole, yeah, women do tend to be maybe more agreeable, and that's why he runs these courses to make them more assertive, yeah. so that they can get better deals for themselves. They can ask for pay rises. They can ask for promotions. You'd think that would be a good thing, unless maybe I'm stupid and I'm missing something.
He's a bit of a phenomenon at the minute. He's huge. I
think because he speaks out against the far left, and nowadays anyone who criticizes the left or the far left is instantly hero worshipped in a way.
Well, there is somewhat of a cult of personality developing around him as well, which is a little bit creepy.
So. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of there were people who were just coming out with, I think they were criticizing her for her interview, and there was someone else on my Twitter, Iona, who hopefully is listening. She was saying that she put out a tweet saying, regarding Peterson, and none of his followers please tweet me, because I think then she got trolled for it. A lot of people, they say that happens if they say something about him, they get trolled by his fans.
To Jordan Peterson's credit, he told people it's only words, don't go after her, it's not right.
Yeah, I saw that.
So people don't realise that when they go out and abuse someone online in defence of somebody they admire or respect, you just hurt that person who you admire and respect, because then all that abuse and all that harassment, in a sense, gets projected onto that individual. It's not that they've got a handful of people who don't know how to conduct themselves with decorum online. All of a sudden they're responsible for sending people to harass. Jordan Peterson's got this online mob of people who goes and harasses people, and it just hurts his cause that people do that in his name, in a sense. But I'm reading through his book now, and it's a real... I mean, it's important to say that he's a very intelligent, learned, well-read individual. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. So some things he talks about, I can hear him talk about for hours. I've seen him on the Joe Rogan show talking about free speech, and he's just on the ball. He's an incredibly eloquent speaker at times. Sometimes he can be a bit rambly, actually. But then I'll read in the book, there'll be some advice about how to raise children, and that you think, okay, fair enough. And then the next thing you know, he's talking about the importance of Genesis stories and how these are applicable. And he gets to this really annoying, wishy-washy way of thinking where as soon as people try to tell him that none of this is really true or valuable, he then sort of shifts the goalpost and starts talking about, well, how do you define truth? What qualifies of truth? By what objective method can you say something's true? And it's very indicative of these very sneaky religious apologists, and it doesn't sit right with me.
It sounds almost IERA like, the people who talk for IERA, the evangelists, they kind of speak like that, don't they?
Yeah, and he also gives Christianity a lot of credit in the book. And I've only had one read through, and I like to have a couple of read throughs of the bits that stick out, just so I'm sure. But it appeared to me that he was saying at one point that Christianity has been instrumental in eradicating slavery. And for me, it's entirely the inverse. He said that Christianity as well has been used as a tool to empower the little man, the working class, ordinary guy, from kings and queens and authority figures. And I think it's entirely the opposite again. So I've reached out to him, and hopefully we might be able to set a conversation upon the podcast. I'm not sure, because he's incredibly big time now. So he might decide that he just doesn't need another podcast appearance anytime soon, but we'll see what happens there. So like I say, on any other week, I could be nominating Jordan Peterson for the Aslan Award. This week, I feel, given Cathy's atrocious performance, she might need to get it. What do you think?
If we nominate Cathy, are we being sexist?
But I think we're being sexist if we don't, because we're holding her to the same standards as everyone else. And I think, to be fair, actually, Iram, it's a good point. It's a good time to point out your blatant misandry here, because if we go back through all the taking the myths of old, I think men are the league leaders in Aslan Awards. So are you telling me that men speak more nonsense as a rule?
Women can speak just as much nonsense. I say we pick her.
Women have the right to talk just as much shit as men. So I'm afraid Cathy Newman's going to get it this week. She dropped the ball here because, I mean, we're talking about big issues here. We're talking about the so-called wage gap, the differences, biological or otherwise, between men and women, state-enforced rules regarding speech codes, and she could have done a little better to dig into these things rather than trying to grandstand and say you're a bigot, you're a kook kind of thing. And it just wasn't journalism. And I think as well, because people talk about not challenging your guest, and I think the best way to challenge them is just to get them to put their unfiltered, unguarded opinions on record so everyone can make their mind up. And if half the interview is spent with somebody saying, no, that's not what I think, that's not what I said, the interview is doing a very poor job. Take it from a professional like me. Cathy Newman.
Are you mansplaining now?
I'm mansplaining. She took it in good. She's actually like she's got a lot of abuse for this, which is completely unacceptable. But she seemed to be a good sport about it. Douglas Murray wrote an article in defence of Jordan Peterson, and I knew Douglas Murray would be a fan because they both lean on this Western identity crisis would be best filled with a dose of Christianity.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to bring up, or should we see if we've got any Twitter questions?
I think we should sort of just briefly talk about the Charlie Hebdo anniversary. We were talking earlier on about free speech and obeying mobs and, if de facto blasphemy laws and the murder of the staff at the Charlie Hebdo magazine. It just seems as though we haven't really learned any lessons. I don't think we've progressed. Do you?
No, I don't. And Pete, they were let down when it happened, and there's been no progression on it since. We've not actually progressed since the Salman Rushdie affair, unfortunately, as far back as that. And it's in the same vein. People who are supposed to be the champions of liberal values will turn their back. I mean, I don't know if you saw that Laurie Penny tweet resurfacing again.
No, which one?
She, from after the attacks had happened, and there was a lot of social media campaigns, that Je suis Charlie was trending, I am Charlie, and she was tweeting
Is she the one that says je ne suis pas?
Yeah, she was saying I'm not Charlie, and she called them racists. She started the sentence with no one deserves to be murdered, blah blah blah. Some clearing her throat with that, followed by a but, and they should never be a but. People failed overwhelmingly to make the right noises on that issue, and I always find it surprising when it comes from people who call themselves writers. She calls herself a writer. Maybe you can debate that to some extent. I remember the National Secular Society did a great thing, and they awarded Charlie Hebdo Secularist of the Year that year. Unfortunately, nobody from the publication could be there to accept the award on account of most of them being slaughtered, of course, but they couldn't afford the security bill to have one of them there, which is incredible, isn't it? So you can't organise in London, invite somebody there who's a satirist at a newspaper because there's very genuine concerns regarding security that cost a lot of money. I remember speaking to Caroline Forrest about this on the podcast. She used to work for Charlie Hebdo. She was saying that unfortunately in places in Europe, the cost of security goes to the venue, so they could be talking tens of thousands of pounds to secure a venue. And it's upsetting just thinking about this, but mainstream newspapers and media outlets let Charlie Hebdo down when that happened. She appeared on Sky News. I don't know if you remember this.
And she tried to hold a magazine up, and they
with the picture away. They cut away as if she just started taking all her clothes off and throwing a shit across the studio. The reaction to it was incredible, all because she held up the picture of a newspaper with a cartoon depiction of Muhammad on it. The panic was insane, and all they're saying there is, we agree with you people who are enforcing blasphemy. We think this is obscene too, and we won't show it either. And nothing improves.
We have mad mullahs coming over from Pakistan and preaching hatred towards minorities here, and they get away with it. There's no consequences for those people. They're not going to get shot. They're not going to have their heads chopped off at the end of the day.
Charlie Hebdo, it's just strange how something that happened in France to a publication can have an effect on you individually, because before then I'd kept my face off Twitter or off the internet in general. I was kind of a faceless account in that sense. I just didn't. The idea of internet celebrity makes me feel nauseous. I don't like the idea of useless people being famous just for being online and having a YouTube channel that starts every video with "Hi guys." Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
But when Charlie Hebdo happened, I just felt that I can't be a person who champions absolute freedom of speech and their right to do what they want and show what they want, all the while not taking any personal responsibility for it by not showing my face. So that's when I started agreeing to be on panels and making media appearances and making videos, because I just feel like if I can't put my face to it, my opinions and my views, how can I then demand that Charlie Hebdo keep doing the things they're doing, that and then that other people do it. And I just think it's that safety in numbers thing as well, isn't it? These people can't murder everybody, you know, but then when we leave people like Ayaan Hirsi Ali to speak alone, or Charlie Hebdo to speak alone, or Majid Nawaz to speak alone, that target on their back becomes ever more visible to people who wish to do them harm, because they stick out like sore thumbs.
Yeah, but it's just, I think sometimes it's not practical because it's not going to happen anytime soon. I know what you're saying, that in order to show solidarity, you know, why be anonymous? But I sometimes wish, you know, had it not been, would it have been better if I had stayed anonymous? Because then the level of crap that I get is just, is you know, really worrying sometimes. But hey ho, as they say, genie's already out of the bottle. And I'm better to look at than Hamza sources.
This is true. This is a fact, objective fact. Yeah, so it's difficult it's more, I understand, I appreciate that it's more difficult for someone like you from inside the community, because you have the outer circle of everybody else who gives me shit. We are going to give you the same shit as well. Then you have people within your community who I'm never going to hear from. If you put your face to criticism of fundamental Islam, and that's what you concentrate on, you have closed off so many avenues for yourself, career-wise, relationship-wise, and you put yourself in danger. And I don't think people quite understand that aspect of it, and that very fact alone should show you that there is a problem there anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
So I just think people need to be a bit more sensible on this, and sensible does not mean attacking a community. Sensible does not mean being xenophobic. Sensible does not mean closing all the borders. Sensible does not mean excluding certain minorities from things. I think you can have this conversation and still keep hold of all your wishy-washy, lovey-dovey, lefty values.
Exactly.
Well, I think we've pretty much nailed all the big topics, and I've rambled enough for 1 month. I hope you have a wonderful 2018, and I hope our European Islamic terrorism attackometer stays at 0 for the rest of the year.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Tell people where they can find Sedar before you go.
It's www.sedar.org.
Speak to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for listening to the Godless Spellchecker podcast. The podcast is a one-man operation, produced in my spare time away from my day job, and I love making it for you. If you enjoy what you hear, please consider lending some support. The show is entirely listener supported. I don't sell anything, I don't run ads, and given the alternative and unpopular focus of my content, it's very unlikely to find a sponsor. So there are a number of ways you can support and chip in and help improve the show and give me more time to produce more content. You can become a patron supporter and pledge a monetary amount per month or per episode by visiting patreon.com/gspellchecker. If you can't lend monetary support right now, don't worry, there's other ways you can help the podcast too. You can share it on your various social media networks, or take a moment to leave a review wherever you listen to it. Your support is massively appreciated. Thank you. Think we've all learned something here today?